closers get paid.
Guys, welcome back to the program. I'm really excited on this tool that I'm going to give you today. That are these success cards. There's two sides of these cards, and I'm going to tell you a story about these cards, and I'm going to tell you how effective they've been for me in my life and the challenges that me and my team have faced and why I started using them in the first place. And it's quite simple. On one side of the card is your goal, and your goal should be on this card. And you want to carry this card with you as much as possible. So every time you see it, you touch it, it sets off a trigger. It reminds you, hey, this is what my ultimate purpose, my goal in life is. Now, I got this idea originally from Bob Proctor, and I brought him up quite a bit because he's been such a major impact in my life and a wonderful person and a great mentor. But what's interesting is I'm going to tell you this story that's really powerful, and I hope you really get the message. When I first met Bob, I seen him pull this card out of his pocket, and it had his goal on it. And he said that your goal should excite you and scare you both at the same time. Now, if you don't know who he is, he was one of the main people in the movie The Secret, the documentary that came out that went very popular back in 07 or 08, not sure when. But this was prior to that. And in his mind, he already seen this happening. He said his goal excited him and it scared him both at the same time. He did not know how it was going to happen, but it was going to happen. And his vision was to have a worldwide company. And obviously the movie The Secret did that for him. And just today, I was driving to the Bay Area, once again listening to programs, and I had this old program on in my car, and it was Earl Nightingale from The Strangest Secret. And I heard Earl talk about having a card, carrying a card with you. And then it dawned on me that Bob Proctor used to work for Earl Nightingale. That's who trained him, but he applied what he was taught, and I watched him do it. I watched him apply it, carry the card, and then his dream, his goal became a reality. Very, very powerful. Think about what your goal is, write it down, and get it on the card. So as I was coming up, and once again, I was going to all these seminars and listening to the great people out there. One of them was Tony Robbins, and I really gravitated to Tony. And that's how I got the back of this card. And I just put the two together. Tony heard about me through his company, that I was doing things with the information that I was learning from him. And I ended up in a testimonial of his and a infomercial. The infomercial was the Get the Edge. He flew a camera crew out to my house, and we filmed and did all kinds of great stuff. And it was really an awesome experience. But I don't believe that I would ever achieve those kind of goals in my life had I not been using these cards. My vision was to learn these questions that I was getting from Tony Robbins, how to redirect my focus, asking myself more intelligent questions to the point to where my subconscious mind automatically did them without me thinking about it. I wanted my mind constantly asking the right questions that I didn't have to stop and think anytime I was having a struggle. I wanted it to be automatic. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do, is really learn these questions and repeat them all the time to where they're just habitual. They automatically fire off without you having to think about it. That's the level you're going to want to be at. But until then, they're going to be on the back of this card. And if you look at these questions, and when you read the question, the key is to wait for the answer. And as you do that, you'll start to notice a shift. Now, these questions work in a lot of different situations. For instance, I gave them out to all my sales guys. We set their goals on one side, and they had the questions on the other. And they were in the bad habit of calling me every time they had a challenge, which, I wanted them to think for themselves or not bother me with all these things that weren't that important or, urgent, so to speak. But they were in the habit of doing that. And literally, one time I had one of them call me, and I think one of the vehicles broke down, and I said, have you read the back of the card? Have you ran through the questions? And he said, well, no. And I said, okay, well, call me after you read the questions. Click, and I hung up. Right? A little rude, but you know what? He read the questions. He never called me. He solved his own problem. He became resourceful. And that's what the questions will do, is they'll get you out of being stuck and put you into a more resourceful place, especially when you're having challenges. So read through the questions Every time you're running into a challenge or you're focusing on reaching your new goal or you can't quite figure it out, just run through the questions and notice the shift and how powerful they are and how they work for you. I would also encourage that you take the questions and you use them with your family and friends. Anytime they're having a challenge, start applying these questions in their life. Guide them through the process and notice the shifts that start to happen. And you'll start to get better at what you're learning because you're teaching it. And you'll start to make a difference not only in your life, but the lives of the people that you care about most. You know, it really is a decision. You have to decide that this is a way of life. This is how I'm going to live my life. Not wait for things to be positive or go right or work out the way you want them, but just decide that you're going to keep your chin up and that you are going to be positive at all times, no matter what happens. And if you'll do that, your life will be amazing. You'll be able to achieve so much more and get through so much nonsense and even be able to lead others during a crisis. And I'd like to share with you a personal story that dear to my heart, and a time where I've had to apply these cards, this process, and pull not only myself through, but my family as well. This last year has been very difficult for me and my family. We've lost my nephew, 18 years old. He was murdered by a drive-by shooting, an innocent bystander, and my daughter's best friend. Just a horrible tragedy. And on top of that, my wife, Jamie, diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, all within a few months of each other. So the first thing I had to do was decide, I have to stay strong. I have to find a strong enough reason to apply this on myself, because the alternative, well, I'm sure you can imagine, would not be good. My family, more than ever, was counting on me. And I knew that if I would focus my mind and ask myself better questions, that I could get through this and be strong and help them through the process as well. I just want to tell you kind of what happened there and what I've seen take place that's been really remarkable. Now, I'm sure you can imagine somebody getting that call, they found a tumor. Well, you know, your mind starts to question, what does this mean? And if you're not careful, it can start to go down the wrong path, so to speak, and spiral from one negative question to the next. Well, that's about the direction things were heading. And once again, I just decided I'm going to apply this information that we've been going through in this course and direct not only myself, but my wife through this uncertain time. And simply by asking her better questions, sometimes it's questions you already know the answer to, but once again, it really doesn't matter what you think. It matters what they think that makes the difference. And if it's their idea, and if they answer the question themselves, they'll believe the question or the answer. And so by simply shifting the questions, by first getting myself and running through the process, asking myself better questions, shifting my focus, talking myself up, and interrupting the old pattern, the negative feelings and state that I was in, getting myself in the right place, I became resourceful. And I made a decision that now that I'm resourceful, I'm going to walk her through the same process. Fortunately, she was open-minded. Now, probably because she didn't feel like she had any other options, and which is fine. But as soon as that door opened up for her to be open-minded, I started asking better questions. And the very first question was, what are the options? What are all the options? And at first, most people say, well, there are none, or I don't know. Well, I mean, if you did know, what would some of those options be? Now, I was thinking, get online and, get on the internet and start looking up different treatments and stuff. And as soon as she started to answer some of those questions, I noticed a slight shift. She started to redirect her focus and realize that this wasn't the end of the road, that there was actually more hope and that there could be a solution. Now, when you think about pancreatic cancer, a lot of people label it death sentence. Now, that can be very scary, but there are people that live and survive. But if we're focused on what we don't want, what are the chances of even trying? So I know how important it is to focus on the opposite. What's the opposite of this look like? And shift that focus. And as soon as that started happening, I gave her a notebook and I had her write down what are all the options. And she started researching them and coming up with different options. And I started asking her different questions. And one of the questions that was very powerful and very helpful was, what are you grateful for? And I asked her every night, and actually throughout the day, to make a list of the things she's grateful for and why. And bring love and gratitude back into her heart. I mean, she had love and gratitude, but to really tune into it, to really get connected with it, and shift her focus away from her concern, her uncertainty, to a whole different place, a whole different vibration. And then we started focusing on, what does it look like to be healthy? What would you like to do once this is behind us? And so we got a collage of different things that we're going to do, which next week we'll leave for Cuba. I'll tell you about that here in a moment. And we just started focusing on and talking about the future as if it was already a reality. And then anytime doubt would slip in, we just go back to focusing on what we wanted and got our minds off of what we didn't want. Now here's what's powerful. Positive thinking, maybe it doesn't cure cancer, or who knows, maybe it can. But what I'll tell you, I did see and witness with my own eyes, was a shift of somebody being uncertain to focusing on options and focusing on the future and being grateful and giving that person peace of mind, mental and emotional peace throughout that entire process. And that entire process, I got to tell you, was quite rough, from surgery to chemo to radiation. And the talk was always, we're getting this behind us. Where are we going to go? Once this is through, where are we headed? And she chose Cuba. And last week, I'm happy to report that she's cancer-free, and we finished all the radiation. And honestly, she really didn't have to have the radiation. It was her choice. But just having this process gave me the ability to help somebody through major uncertainty. But once again, it's a decision. You have to make a decision that you're going to be positive at all times. So let's run through these questions. What I want you to do is imagine you're having a challenge. An obstacle is what I really like to call challenges. And that's all it really is. It's just an obstacle. And these questions are going to help you get around, over, through whatever obstacles in between you and where you want to go. So the first question, when you have the challenge, is, what can I learn from this? Napoleon Hill used to pray for challenges. He learned that that's the best way to grow is through adversity. Now, I don't know too many people that prays for challenges. He'd pray for big challenges because he knew that through those challenges was an opportunity for growth. His famous statement was, with every adversity carries with it a seed of equivalent or greater benefit. And it's up to the mind of man to find it. So what can I learn from this? That presupposes that there's a lesson. So you don't keep repeating it. You know, a lot of people always blame somebody other than themselves. They got one finger pointing at other people. And if you notice, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me. So if you can take responsibility for the challenge or the obstacle in front of you, then that means that you can do something about it. You're not handicapped. You're not helpless, if you will. The second question is, what's not perfect yet? You know, that presupposes that things can get better. And that's what's it's going to take in order for you to get what you want. Is you're going to have to get better at what you're doing or better at figuring things out. The third question is, what else could this mean? What else could this mean? And that shifts your focus and your thoughts. Now remember, every question you're going to want to wait for an answer, because that answer is going to make the shift. It's going to make the difference. The next question is, what's the opposite of this? What does that opposite look like? And sometimes that's my first question. I'll go to that question first. What does the opposite of this look like? And it's usually the opposite of whatever challenge you're having. The opposite is what you're after. And it'll give you the answer that you're looking for. The next question is, you know, who's been through this? Who can you talk to that's already had the similar challenge and maybe knock off a lot of the stress that you're going through or the challenges that you're facing and give you some nuggets of wisdom to really help speed you up and get you back on track. The next question is real important. What are my options? You want to capture as many options as possible. That really gives you power, and it gives you a shift from maybe feeling like it's impossible to, wait a minute, there is hope. There is a possibility. I really hadn't thought about that. What's another option? And another option. What are all my options? Even if they seem simple at the time, write them down. And you'll start to gain confidence again, and you'll start to get control over the wheel, so to speak. The next question is, what am I grateful for? That really grounds me when I ask that question. It puts things in perspective, like this dream, this goal, this business I'm running, that's great and dandy, me being successful and all, but what am I really grateful for? My kids, my friends, my wife. And when I start thinking about those people, I start to feel good. I start to feel love inside. And that's really what it's all about, because that's what you're doing it for anyway, is that feeling that you're going to get. And those people are always going to be there to support you. So you want to think about what you're grateful for, and more importantly, why are you grateful for those things in your life? And then you'll just have a whole new outlook at whatever obstacles in your way, and you'll feel better about it, and things will change really quick.
Closers get paid. Closers get paid. Closers get paid. Closers get paid. Closers get paid.